welcome to this episode of Greedy About Books. Each time I say that name, Greedy About Books, I feel like laughing. But I think that is the apt name for these video segments that I'm bringing to you. So I think I'll just stick to it through my laughter. So moving on to the video, I have got two segments as usual, and today it is the book recommendation, which is the first section, and then we move on to a new author who I discovered very recently. He's actually not a new author, but he's an author who I newly discovered. He's a Kannada author. So first, but let's talk about the book recommendation for the week. And I have got a book which I've got from my favorite Ernakulam Public Library. It's called The Starless Crown by James Rollins. James Rollins is an author who usually writes thrillers, and he's written a lot of books. I have enjoyed some of his thrillers and not enjoyed some other books of his. So I believe he started writing fantasy long back. He started with fantasy and then he moved on to thrillers. He wrote under a pseudonym which was James Clemens, and then he started writing his thrillers, and he was a huge success and all that. But The Starless Crown, is the first in a series which is called the Moonfall series. So I'm really liking this. Fantasy is my favorite genre, and this book has got a lot of my favorite elements also in it, like a bunch of people coming together and saving something and trying to protect something, and they all have strengths which they were not aware of till then. So the same thing happens here, and there is this 14-year-old girl called Nix. She's half blind and she's been abandoned at birth by her biological parents, and then she has been fostered by somebody else, and she's loved by them. She's loved by her foster parents and brothers. And Nix she joins an academy where she starts working there actually, and then they realize her potential and she becomes a student. So this is a world which has, in which some parts of that world has permanent darkness and some parts has permanent daylight. And the world building is like really good. So in a fantasy, that is something that you have to be, you have to be a bit patient, because the author has to build up that world, right? He's introducing a completely new world for you, and you have to understand how things work in that world. So fantasy requires a little bit of patience in the beginning, but then it's going to be superb. So we have Nix, who's the 14-year-old girl, and then we have Prince. He is the younger son, and his older brother is the heir to the throne, and this guy is seen as a threat. So he has challenges that he has to face. Then there is a thief who comes upon an artifact that is extremely valuable, and he has to protect it. And then there is a soldier. It's not a mercenary, he's a soldier who has been banished from the kingdom for something that he's done. So there are these bunch of outcasts who come together to save something, to protect something, and of course in the bargain they save the world. But since it's the first part, I don't think the saving the world happens, but they definitely should be protecting the artifact. I'm only halfway through and I'm really loving it. So that's why I thought that before I finish, I'll just come and tell you about this book, which is The Starless Crown by James Rollins. So that is the book recommendation for the week. So now let's move on to the author whom I want to introduce you today. He's a Kannada author called Vasudhendra. So he has written around 15 novels and short story collections, and even a collection of personal essays called Namma Amma Andere Nanagishta. This particular book is about his relationship with his mother, different stages of it, written in Kannada. So he primarily writes in Kannada, and some of his books have been translated into English. And he also has translated some other works, novels, English novels, into Kannada. So Tejo Tungabhadra and Mohanaswamy are two of his other notable works. Tejo Tungabhadra is a historical novel. It has been translated into English by the hugely talented Maitreyi Karnoor. Maitreyi herself is an author, and she had written a book called Sylvia, which I loved. So Maitreyi has translated Tejo Tungabhadra into English, and this particular book is set in Portugal and India in the 15th and 16th centuries. So it talks about life of a couple of people, the Jewish community, who are being persecuted, and some of them leave Lisbon and come to India. So, there is Lisbon, then there is Goa, then there is the Vijayanagara kingdom, and basically it talks about lives on the banks of the Tejo river in Lisbon and the Tungabhadra river in Vijayanagara. I am sure it's a fascinating read and I really want to read it, so I will be getting down to it. Let me check the Ernakulam Public Library again for this book, whether it is available there. And another book of Vasudendra's, which really received a lot of acclaim, is Mohanaswamy. So Vasudendra is the first openly gay writer in Kannada, and he writes very sensitively about issues that affect the LGBTQ community. Mohanaswamy is his collection of short stories, which is a reflection of a life of gays and other people in the LGBTQ community in modern India. Mohanaswamy has been translated into English. Vasudendra has also started a publishing house called Chanda Pustaka, and all his books are published by them, and he also gives opportunities to writers in Kannada who have come out with their first volumes, or emerging writers in Kannada, I should say. In fact, this publishing house has also instituted an award called the Chanda Pustaka Bahumana, and it is given to an author who is coming out with his initial collection of short stories. So there is a cash prize, and the collection of short stories is also published. By the way, Vasudendra got the Sahitya Akademi Award, the Karnataka Sahitya Academy Award for Tejo Tungabhadra in 2019. This is the bare outline of what you can expect from this author, this wonderful author called Vasudendra, who writes in Kannada. And since the translations are available, I think that it is a must read, because reading regional literature, I feel, is something that all of us should do, and that helps us to understand different parts of our country like nothing else does. Okay, oh yeah, traveling also helps you understand, but regional literature will give you, I think, a more nuanced and more deeper insight into the way of thinking of people, of different types of people, different kinds of people. It makes you understand how different they are, at the same time how similar they are to the way we think and the way we live. So Vasudendra is an author who has written prolifically, who is writing prolifically. He has varied interests. He has a publishing house of his own, which he is running. And I believe he had stopped watching television in 2020. He said that it was intruding too much into his life, and he stopped watching television, which he continues till date. So Vasudendra is the author whom I wanted to introduce you to today. He has a beautiful website which will give you all the details that you want about him, about his books, vasudendra.com, and I'll mention that in the caption below, so do check it out. Please go and read up about this wonderful author and try to read his books. Mohanaswamy has been translated into English, Tejo Tungabhadra has been translated into English, and all those of you who know Kannada, do read his books. So that was all for today. The Starless Crown by James Rollins was the book recommendation for the week, and Vasudendra, the Kannada author who wrote Tejo Tungabhadra, Mohanaswamy, and the Kannada book. I'm sorry, I had learnt that name, Nammamma Andre Nanagishta. Yes. So these are just 3 of his books. Go and read. All those of you who are able to read Kannada, do try to read the rest of his works. And till we meet again next week, stay safe, stay happy, read.